It's now my great pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Secretary of the Navy, Carlos Del Toro. 1983 graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy, Secretary Del Toro served a 22-year career as a surface warrior, including command at sea of USS Bulkley, DDG-84. He served ashore as Senior Executive Assistant to the Director of Program Analysis and Evaluation in OSD. He also served as Special Assistant to the Director and Deputy Director of OMB, where he helped manage budgets for the DoD, the State Department, CIA, DIA, the NRO, and the Peace Corps. Post-active duty, he founded SPG Technology, providing solutions and analysis for issues ranging from shipbuilding to space systems, cybersecurity, health, and training. In addition to his electrical engineering degree from the Naval Academy, he holds master's degrees in national security studies from the Naval War College, space systems engineering from the Naval Postgraduate School, and legislative affairs from George Washington University. And I challenge you to find anyone more dedicated to, committed to a strong Navy and Marine Corps and the people who serve in the Navy and Marine Corps than Secretary Del Toro. Let's give a warm welcome to the 78th Secretary of the Navy, the Honorable Carlos Del Toro.
Good morning, everyone. How are you? This beautiful day in Washington, D.C., huh? Every day is a beautiful day in Washington, D.C. when you're the Secretary of the Navy. Can't think of a better job in government. It's wonderful to be here with all of you this morning to discuss the future of our maritime services. And thank you, Ray, for your leadership in our Navy and for now your leadership here at USNI. Can't think of a better person to lead this effort. To all our flag officers, general officers, distinguished guests, Navy and Marine Corps leaders, and those from USNI, thank you for joining us for this conference and discussion today, and especially for my dear friends at OMB. I still have, I think, approximately 39, 40 days. I don't know exactly what the count is. I'll take any money that you have left over, and to our Navy Marine Corps. And of course, I can't think of any better time to discuss building and sustaining the naval force structure the nation needs than here and now. It is imperative that we maintain a formidable Navy and Marine Corps to secure our nation and advance our national security interests as well as our economic security interests. And if there's everything I've lived by these past 3.5 years, is that notion that national security and economic security are intrinsically tied together. As Secretary of the Navy, you see, my mission has been to provide combat-ready forces and capabilities to our commanders in support of the Secretary of Defense and the President of the United States. And this means ensuring that our sailors and Marines have the ships, the aircraft, the weapons that they need to deter our adversaries and, if called upon, win decisively our nation's wars. And one of my primary responsibilities has been the professional military education of our Navy and Marine Corps. As I've told my generals and admirals thousands of times in the time that I've been Secretary, it's important to be able to think strategically about these issues. And that's why I have actually endorsed and supported financially our professional military education institutions the way that I have. Because I need everyone in the United States Navy and Marine Corps, from the most senior Navy Admiral or Marine Corps General down to the lowest sailor and Marine, to be able to think strategically. Now, over a year ago at Harvard University's John F. Kennedy School of Government, I introduced my vision for a new maritime statecraft to prevail in an era of intense strategic competition. And I must say that a year later, I am most pleased by how it has been embraced by so many across the interagency and in Congress in such a bipartisan manner. Maritime statecraft encompasses not only naval diplomacy and maritime competition, but a national, whole-of-government effort to build, rebuild comprehensive U.S. and allied maritime power, both commercial and naval. And a key tenet of maritime statecraft is the recognition that no great naval power has long endured without also being a great commercial maritime power. And this is why I have been working across the lifelines of the Department of the Navy, meeting with cabinet leaders across the administration to build awareness and advocate that long-term solutions to many of the Navy's challenges require that we renew the health of our nation's broader maritime industrial base that has been diminishing since about 1980, when we stopped subsidizing commercial shipbuilding in this country. Last year, I drove the creation of a government shipbuilders council. This united the Department of the Navy, MARAD, Coast Guard, NOAA, and yes, even the United States Army. I had to admit that the Army has ships, yes, or boats as I call them, to tackle these common challenges in ship construction and maintenance. We have catalyzed multiple White House-led interagency processes on both naval and commercial shipbuilding, bringing together the National Security Council, the National Economic Councils, and departments across the executive branch. And my team has worked diligently alongside our partners in Congress to reinvigorate existing but unfunded authorities and craft new incentives to build and flag commercial ships in the United States. We have some of these authorities already in statute, on the books. We need to revitalize them, and we need Congress to step in and actually put money towards them. We expect that these efforts will offer significant returns to Navy shipbuilding and sea lift. Maritime statecraft is a means, and maritime dominance is actually the ends. This past August marked my 3rd anniversary as Secretary of the Navy, and it has been the honor of my life to serve alongside the nearly 1 million sailors, Marines, Department of the Navy civilians who serve our great nation and our Navy Marine Corps team. When I entered office, I laid out my vision for the Department of the Navy through 3 enduring priorities. Those are strengthening maritime dominance, building a culture of warfighting excellence, and a real commitment to enhancing our strategic partnerships with all of our stakeholders. These priorities serve as the basis for all that we have done and all that we currently do in the department. To decisively win our nation's war, we cannot rely merely on maintaining our sea power, of course. We must strengthen our maritime dominance by expanding our shipbuilding capacity and enhancing our fleet's capabilities. This has been the focus since my first day as Secretary. As we gather here today, we have approximately 86 ships that are under contract and over 50 in construction, including Ford-class aircraft carriers, Constellation-class frigates, San Antonio-class LPDs, Arleigh-Burke-class destroyers, Columbia-class SSBNs, and Virginia-class SSNs. What we have done in the past 4 years to modernize our Navy and to get shipbuilding back on track is extraordinary. And don't let anybody tell you differently, not anybody in Congress or anywhere else. If we had more resources, of course we could do more. But I assure you that we have maximized the return on investment for the American taxpayer over the last 4 years, making the most wisest decisions, and also correcting the mistakes of the past that have been made on certain shipbuilding classes as well, turning them really lethal today. And I'll talk more about that here in a moment. Last year, we commissioned the USS Jack Lucas, DDG-125, the Navy's first Flight 3 Arleigh-Burke-class guided missile destroyer. Hell, you might as well call it a cruiser. And this year, the USS Gerald R. Ford, CVN-78, returned from a historic 8-month deployment to the Mediterranean, where she played a crucial role in deterring further escalation following the outbreak of conflict in Israel. Our ships are making a difference around the globe every single day. Today, a third of our fleet is underway, over 40,000 Marines deployed to every corner of the globe. And a significant milestone, the USS Zumwalt, which I just visited just last week, DDG-1000, has recently been undocked, back in the water, and it received the conventional prompt strike upgrade, enhancing its combat capabilities. And today, the literal combat ship is equipped, numerous of them, with the Naval Strike Missile, a long-range precision strike weapon, and eventually, many will receive the Mark 70 payload delivery system with vertical launch system technology, giving us tremendous firepower and even more tactical advantage over our adversaries. Yes, LCS is back. Freedom class and Independence class. And we have every intent to deploy them aggressively everywhere around the globe. In the Persian Gulf, obviously with the minesweeping capability, and everywhere else it's needed, particularly in the Pacific with these added capabilities. In September, the Navy awarded contracts for procurement of one America-class amphibious assault ship, LHA, and 3 San Antonio amphibious transport dock LPD ships. And I am so proud of that block buy. It's what our Marine Corps needed in order to be effective in the future, to be able to transport large numbers of Marines across the Pacific and anywhere else around the globe. When people ask me about challenges to the amphibious fleet, it's a very simple answer. The ships are old. They need to be replaced. And that's what this administration, has done here with this block buy. It's us who actually put this into the POM, and it's this administration that had it approved at the White House and got it over to the Congress. And we are thankful for the monies that the Congress has applied in order for us to be able to go down this route. In addition to our amphibious ship procurement, the Department of the Navy awarded a block buy contract to procure 8 TAO ships that are critically essential to doing logistics in the Pacific and around the globe. And this multi-billion-dollar contract reflects the innovation to build and sustain our maritime dominance and allows for critical investment and maintenance of our shipbuilding industrial base. And we are also focusing significant attention on innovations that will make our current fleet more lethal and provide even a greater return on investment to the American taxpayer. In October, off the coast of San Diego, and yes, I was there, I don't miss a chance to get underway. We tested the Transportable Rearming Mechanism, TRAM, which will provide our surface combatants with a game-changing capability to reload their vertical launch systems while underway in open ocean. And it's critical, obviously. Given the operations that we've conducted in the Red Sea over the past year and a half, we simply cannot afford to have our destroyers sailing for an additional week or 2 weeks to get back in port to reload these VLS launchers. To maintain the United States' position as the world's preeminent maritime power, we're continuously innovating and implementing cutting-edge technologies across the Department of the Navy and the Department of the Marine Corps. Our people are the foundational strength of this department, however, and they provide us competitive wartime advantage over our adversaries. And I've often said that the difference between us and our adversaries is our people. Because we train, again, going back to professional military education, we train and educate our people to think how to fight, to think about how to win. They script their people to fight. And that is the fundamental difference between us and them. Our priority of building a culture of warfighting excellence is founded on strong leadership that is rooted in treating each other with dignity and respect in all that we do, creating an environment in which our sailors, Marines, DoD civilians, and contractors can realize their inherent potential to serve in the United States military and to serve their nation. And this includes promoting programs which improve quality of life and quality of service for all service members, civilians, and their families. Since I took office as Secretary of the Navy, we have decreased the wait list for child development centers by 61% and continue to make strides in reducing CDC wait lists that are so important to our families and their quality of life and quality of service. And just last year, we expanded our parental leave policy, which extended parental leave to 12 weeks for both parents following childbirth or adoption. Since 2021, basic allowance for housing rates have increased, with a 5.4% increase this past year alone. And I'm proud that both the Navy and Marine Corps exceeded their ambitious recruiting goals in fiscal year 24. Folks, the Navy contracted nearly 41,000 new recruits by the end of the fiscal year, and the Marine Corps far exceeded its goal of enlisting over 27,500 new Marines. It has been all hands on deck, and I'm proud of the accomplishments of all our recruiters in both the Navy and Marine Corps for meeting their goals. And we did not reduce those goals. In fact, we have not reduced our goals for the past 3 years. We've upped them every single year because we have to recruit these individuals to close the gaps that we have at sea. So we have remained committed and we have succeeded. We did so without lowering the targeted objectives, as I just said. And where we have struggled, we have worked to identify and address the root causes of our challenges. I'm proud of what we've done. Today, in the Navy, in the Marine Corps, we have the highest retention that we have had in 10 years. These are facts, folks. Look them up. Do your research. These are facts. It's not anecdotal. It's not words on a PowerPoint presentation. It has been a tremendous accomplishment, not something I've done, something our entire team has done. All of our sailors, all of our Marines, our flag officers in both services, and in fact, across the entire military. And again, I'm proud of the support that we received from the Office of Management and Budget in the White House in supporting us financially with these initiatives. Because I often say that talk is cheap in Washington, D.C. It's easy to say anything when the cameras are on you, but the only thing that really matters is what's in the budget. Because the budget is a reflection of our core values and what we believe in and what we do to sustain and support our Marines and sailors on the ground. They know the difference between talk and action. Now, this fall, I approved a plan to restore the health of the Military Sealift Command workforce, which includes crew reassignment to higher priority vessels and the placement of some MSC logistics support ships into extended maintenance periods. Our civil service Marines provide vital logistics support to our deployed naval forces. This initiative will not only resolve current operational logistics challenges, but also secure MSC's future workforce by implementing policies, programs, and incentives to attract and retain top-tier talent. By taking these steps, we're investing in the future of our Navy Marine Corps and ensuring our ability to meet the challenges of the 21st century. And there's still a lot more work to be done when it comes to supporting the MSC fleet. And I look forward, hopefully, to some legislative proposals that will develop over the course of the next year to continue to reinforce our MSC fleet, which suffered tremendously during COVID. So many people retired from the MSC fleet during COVID because of the challenges that they faced with deployments 11, 12 months away from their families at a time. We need to restore that. Now, let me talk about enhancing our strategic partnerships, of which I've been very, very proud of as well. As I said many times before, the Department of the Navy cannot win our nation's wars alone. And this is so very important moving into the future. Our greatest asymmetric strength lies in our network of partnerships around the world and our defense industrial base. We're supporting our British allies in the design, build, and test of the propulsion plant for their next-generation nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarine, the Dreadnought class SSBN, modernizing their undersea nuclear deterrent as we pursue our own modernization effort with the Columbia class SSBN. And alongside the United Kingdom, we are partnered with Australia as part of the AUKUS Security Agreement, a generational commitment by all three of our nations designed to promote our collective security. Under AUKUS, we are sharing our nuclear propulsion technology for only the second time in our nation's history, representing the largest international nuclear propulsion technology sharing agreement in 65 years. In August, Australia, Canada, the Philippines, and the United States upheld the right to freedom of navigation and overflight in support of a free and open Indo-Pacific. Together, our nations conducted a multilateral maritime cooperative activity within the Philippines' exclusive economic zone, and the interoperability amongst our armed forces sends a strong signal that we are united in support of the rules-based international order. We have also strengthened our naval ties with India, deepened our strategic relationship, advancing our cooperation in undersea domain awareness and other initiatives that are so important in the Indian Ocean and elsewhere. And Japan and Australia have, within the past few years, signed agreements to purchase Tomahawk land attack missiles. In January, the United States approved the purchase of 400 TLAMs by Japan. And just this week, Australia launched the Tomahawk for the first time, a major milestone and a key step for our collective defense of the Indo-Pacific. In February, I again traveled to the Republic of Korea and Japan, where I met with top executives of some of the world's most technologically advanced and prolific dual-use commercial and naval shipyards. In June, Hanwha announced they had reached an agreement to purchase the Philadelphia shipyard. I am hopeful that Hanwha and many others will be just the first of many other world-class shipbuilders to come to America and take part in our country's maritime renaissance through direct foreign investment here in the United States, creating new American jobs to support our economy. That's what maritime statecraft is all about. We are also working on several initiatives to leverage the shipbuilding intellectual capital of our allies and partners. In June, the White House announced the Icebreaker Collaboration Effort, or ICE-PACT, an enhanced trilateral partnership amongst Canada, Finland, and the United States. ICE-PACT will leverage shipyards in these countries to build polar icebreakers for their own use, while also working closely with allies and partners to build and export polar icebreakers for their needs at speed and cost. And we in the Department of the Navy are working alongside Congress, industry, and academia to find innovative ways to reinforce our maritime power. And the Ships Act for America Act, a critical bipartisan piece of legislation announced in September, will indeed reshape our nation's maritime future. Over the past 40 years, we have allowed our domestic shipbuilding industry to decline, as I recently said. A reliance on foreign-built commercial vessels not only compromises our national security, but also undermines our economic prosperity. But by investing in American shipyards, we're investing in the skilled workers who build our commercial and naval ships, the communities that depend on them, and the broader industrial base that supports them. This bill, if passed, will provide incentives for shipbuilding here in the United States, promote innovation in maritime technology, streamline regulations to foster a more competitive industry. We need more competition in this country. And in order, again, to provide the American, how many of you are American taxpayers? Can you please put up your hands? Is there anybody in the room who's not? Please see me afterwards. I know that there's probably a couple of Canadians and UK folks that aren't, at least here in the US. But we have an obligation in government to provide that greater return on investment. And that comes through competition. And it's one of the reasons why I've been such an advocate for the small business community, for reinforcing the mid-tier companies that are out there, and for greater collaboration with large companies so that we can all work together to a bigger goal. And just in the past 2 years, again, these are facts, you can look them up. In the small business ecosphere, we've added 7,300, nearly 7,300 small companies to the supply chain. That's how you fix problems. You go to the core root of the problem and you try to fix them. And these are 70,300 companies, not who've punched a button on a website, folks. These are companies, small businesses with real contracts with the Navy and Marine Corps. I'm very proud of that accomplishment. Now, as we look to the future, we must continue to make informed decisions about shipbuilding, maintenance, repair, and the future of the fleet, which will impact and shape the Navy for decades to come. And these problems are difficult problems to solve. I had no expectation that I would just be able to solve them in 4 years. Kind of hoped for 8 years, but it didn't work out. But it will take another decade to work through these difficult challenges. And I do pray that this next administration will embrace these challenges with as much passion and collaboration across party lines to be able to fix some of the problems, systemic problems that we have faced now for over a decade. Greater investment in our commercial and naval shipbuilding infrastructure, both public and private, is imperative to provide and maintain a Navy and Marine Corps in order to defend our national security. I'm extremely proud of everything our department has accomplished over the last 3 years and a half, and I'm excited for our Navy Marine Corps team as we chart a course for the future, a future that will require us to respond and adapt to whatever geopolitical challenges our nation may face. We are indeed a maritime nation, and it is imperative that all of us gathered here today remain committed to providing for and maintaining the Navy and Marine Corps that guarantees our national and economic security. I thank all of you for your commitment to the Department of the Navy. Communication is the key to success. And I will tell you that I prided myself in communicating with all of our stakeholders. Now, our stakeholders may not have always liked what I had to say, but I committed from very early on to communicate with industry, with academia, and with Congress in a very open and transparent way, in a manner that actually reveals the challenges that we face today in the Navy. with the hope and expectation that we'll work on these problems together and not just stick our heads in the sand. It's one of the reasons why I rolled out our 45-day study, to re-baseline where we are with all these shipbuilding programs so that we can begin anew, commit the resources necessary to fix the problems that we have. And so, thank you for all of your commitment to the Department of Maritime Services and indeed our nation. And as I close out my time as your 78th Secretary of the Navy, please know that my wife Betty and I will always carry all of you in our hearts and prayers till our dying days. May God continue to bless our sailors, our Marines, our civilians, and their families stationed around the globe with fair winds and following seas. Thank you. All right, that was the easy part. Now the Q&A. Greg.
Hey, Carlos, I want to state publicly, as I've shared with you privately, how immensely proud I am of you, both as a friend and as our Secretary of the Navy, so thank you. So I have three quick questions for you. One of them is, and now that your time as Secretary of the Navy for 3 years, what the hell has gone wrong in the last 30 years of Navy's inability to deliver a ship on time and within budget? Second one is on what would you like to see the next administration accelerate in that which you've accomplished very well? And the last one is, what message are you going to give to our Navy football team to ensure a win?
All right. I'll start with the last one first. Win the damn game. I'm 1-2. I need to be 2-2. But I'm quite confident that on Saturday, it's a great day for the American people. And, you know, these great institutions that are in Annapolis, West Point, and the Coast Guard Academy and the Air Force Academy, they really are great institutions filled with amazing young men and women who want to serve their country. And it really is a great day for our country, despite the outcome, but I expect to win. To your first question about, you know, what's gone wrong, you know, I think in the early 1980s, when the Reagan administration came in, you know, they were very passionate, obviously, about, you know, turning over everything to the private sector and allowing the private sector to sort of take over, and with the best of intentions. You know, I ran a company for 17 years, and I believe in market capitalism and all those sort of things. But unfortunately, without the necessary subsidies and support from the federal government, who took over is the Chinese. The Chinese took over. And thank God that our allies, Japan and South Korea, continued to build their shipbuilding capacities so that they can actually continue to build commercial ships around the world. By losing our commercial shipbuilding capacity here in this country, our naval shipbuilding suffered tremendously. And we turned more into a monopoly than having a competitive environment in which we can compete, you know, ships and platforms and everything to keep prices down. That, of course, continued to grow over the course of time. More shipyards continued to shut down at the end of the Cold War, which, you know, became a problem, obviously, for shipbuilding. And we became the sole customer. And so now we're in this sort of monopolistic sort of environment where there's very few shipyards that build our Navy ships. And that's why I wanted to institute this new call to national maritime statecraft 3.5 years ago, knowing how difficult it would be. But I'm so pleased, and that's my hope for the future. You know, I think the best measure of success is when other people start, you know, taking over your ideas and running with them on their own. And God bless America. Call it whatever the hell you want in the next administration and beyond. But the core principles have to remain the same. We have to rebuild the commercial shipbuilding industry in this country. And it may be, you know, one challenge at a time, but we got to get there in order to enhance our naval capabilities. And I'm sorry, Greg, I forgot the middle question.
What would you like to see the next administration accelerate in what you've
this national
accomplished?
maritime statecraft.
Okay.
You know, that's embedded in the SHIPS Act. You know, I was so pleased that President Trump actually, you know, his first conversation with the president of Korea talked about shipbuilding. I think that's extraordinary. You know, I hope they do continue to collaborate in ways that are useful and purposeful to rebuilding our maritime shipbuilding industry in this country. So. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. Ellen Chang, Secretary Del Toro, really congratulations on such wonderful work that you've done. I really admire your maritime statecraft vision.
Thanks.
My question is, as a private citizen, and I work in private equity now, where can we best apply our efforts? As well as maybe, I don't know if I should ask this question, also you mentioned the SHIPS Act, but what about the Jones Act? Where does that play?
Sure. Well, the Jones Act, does protect keeping American jobs here in the United States, and that's very important. But I think the more that we grow the industry in general, in every conceivable way, I think the economy gains and our national security gains by that. And and every time, look, anytime that whether it's a foreign shipbuilder or VCs here in this country, right? Private equity in this country invests in a small shipyard, in a medium-sized shipyard, in a large shipyard. It's the whole ecosphere that's impacted by that. So it's not just the shipyard itself. They rely on many sub-vendors. The prime contractor of the shipyard, relies on many, many other sub-vendors, right? And so economically, everybody wins, and it does sustain the economy. It raises wages. It's just amazing. But I will tell you that when people ask me what's the one most significant challenge that we have in the industry, it's the blue-collar workforce. We need more blue-collar workers in this country. Look, I'm very pleased and thankful to President Biden and the entire administration for making the economy as strong as it has been, although many people have suffered in different places, obviously, with the cost of goods and things like that. But the fact is that unemployment is extremely low, right? And the way you fix that is by bringing in more blue-collar workforce from other places. And so immigration reform has to be a topic that's on the agenda over the next 4 years and beyond. And it should be looked at in a very bipartisan way. Republicans and Democrats and independents all working together to increase legal immigration into this country. We have been a nation of legal immigrants coming to this country for decades and generations, right? And we need to sustain that because that's what sustains our economy. And if you expect the economy to grow dramatically, it's the only way you're going to do it. Otherwise, inflation is going to continue to rise, and it's going to be a real challenge. So,
Thank you.
Tim Oliver, Independent.
by the way, that's what I learned at OMB the year that I was there as a White House fellow at OMB. So, thank you.
Independent consultant Tim Oliver. Carlos, thanks for all you've done for the nation. Eric Labs talked about the need for growth in the workforce, and you talked about the 25,000 Americans that got recruited into the military and the Navy and the Marine Corps. A couple of questions. One is, can there be an effort, or is there already going on, to target those many, many Americans who stood up, said, I want to serve, but the Navy or the Marine Corps said, yeah, but we've got somebody that's a little bit better than you are, to invite them to join this maritime industrial base and tell them about all of the opportunities that would be available to them to serve their country. That's one area. And then the other, in the short term, we know that those who have served the nation understand the sacrifice and the importance of what they did to serve the nation.
Yeah.
Efforts to make sure that those folks, as they exit the door to become citizens again, know that there's all these opportunities, that they can be
Yes.
trained for free and be able to get great jobs.
So the answer is yes, we're trying. Our National Maritime Call to Service is not just a Navy call to service. It's a call to primarily uniform service in the Navy and Marine Corps, but it's also a call to serve in the reserves if you don't want to serve in a full-time capacity in the Navy and Marine Corps. It's also a call to join the Department of the Navy. We have many dedicated, and I want to thank all the dedicated Department of the Navy and Marine Corps civilians who work in our department. We would not be able to do our jobs. We would not be able to keep these, ship construction programs on track and provide the necessary oversight that's critical to the American taxpayer if we did not have government employees helping our uniformed service members on all these tasks across the field. So that is an essential, critical piece of success in the future. Without them, we'll see further delays in programs, higher costs in how much these programs cost, and it will be critical to maintain these amazing civil servants who work across our entire Pentagon, our entire military system, and our entire government for that matter. But it is a comprehensive call to service is what it is. And so, and if not, then we point you towards buildsubmarines.com or any of the other websites that are out there or the shipyards in order to, and we've been working very closely with industry. And I see my good friend back there, Mark, who will tell you that we have been engaged with them to try to bring labor to the shipyards everywhere that we can.
Thank you.
Rob Rise, Palace Advisors. You said earlier that our manufacturing base has declined due to lack of government subsidies, and now we have Hanwha rehabbing our nation's oldest shipyard in Philly and a Japanese firm trying to buy U.S. Steel. So,
I didn't say anything about the Japanese trying to buy U.S. Steel.
Roger.
Just to be clear and exact.
Roger.
Good.
So, simple question. Are we delegating the rebuilding of that industrial base to partner nations simply because we refuse to...
I'm sorry, can you repeat it again? I know you're reading off your
So,
cell phone, but...
Are we delegating the manufacturing base and the rehab of the industrial base to our partner nations simply because we refuse to raise taxes for those subsidies that existed decades
No,
ago?
I don't think there's a direct equation there. I think what we're calling for is actually greater investment, international investment here in the U.S., so that we can create more American jobs, so that we actually reinforce the manufacturing industry in this country. That's exactly what we're doing.
Good morning, Mr. Secretary. For those who might not know me, Mark Vandroff, Fincantieri Marinette Marine. Thank you very much for your leadership over these last 3.5 years, sir. A question that I hope you can answer at the unclassified level.
Okay.
I was recently in a conversation, and I was talking about how proud we should all be of our Navy's performance these last, I'll call it 13, 14 months in the Red Sea, given the threat environment, given the combat operations they were engaged in. And my interlocutor, who I will not name, dismissed that as an unsophisticated threat. And while I said probably not at the sophistication of a peer competitor like the People's Republic of China, it was my impression now as an outsider looking in that it was a sophisticated threat, and it showed both the superiority of American firepower and the resilience of our sailors. But would you like to comment on
Sure.
just what kind of threat were our forces engaged with these last 14 months in the Red Sea?
Without question, it is the singular most thing that I am most proud of our United States Navy. I will walk out with my head held high that at least I have tried every single day to support those sailors out there in the Red Sea, collectively with our entire industrial might and our entire industry behind them. And what those sailors and Marines have done in the Red Sea is extraordinary. There is absolutely nothing commonplace about what they do. And yes, every day there's a new article that goes out in the press, and it almost seems just like commonplace, and the American people pay very little attention to it. Yet, they are the bravest individuals who have served our country in many ways. It's incredible what they've done, what they've defeated in terms of the sophistication of the attacks that have come at them from the Houthis in the Sea of Aden and the Red Sea as well too. Just a couple of days ago, 2 of our destroyers again took down several missiles and drones that were fired at them. And so we're very, very proud. And it's also a reflection of making smart choices and investments in the capabilities of the Navy and the Marine Corps. Because these are investments that were made 30, 40 years ago in the Aegis Combat Weapons System, for example. And in the training, as I talk about strengthening and focusing on the warfighting culture of our sailors and our Marines, what we've done to train them over the past decade is truly extraordinary. And they deserve all the credit and the praise of the American people. So thank you for asking that question, Mark.
Morning, Mr. Secretary. Austin Gray with Blue Water Autonomy. So Senator Wicker, who's speaking next, I think sent you a letter along with Chairman Reed a couple weeks ago about the large and medium unmanned surface programs.
Yes.
And there's been a lot of work and discussion going on there, obviously, and there's Replicator as well. But I'm curious on your take, and I appreciate all the programs you highlighted in your notes earlier. But I
There's a lot
notice
more.
I noticed there was nothing about unmanned. So what's
Yeah.
going on with medium and
No,
large
that
USVs
was
there?
no oversight on my part. Let me tell you, I have been overly enthusiastic since day one to support all of our unmanned efforts. When you take a look at what Task Force 59 has done over the last couple of years, what we're doing now with Task Force 59.1, what we're doing with Task Force 66 in the Mediterranean, what we've done out in the Pacific with medium unmanned surface vehicles, of which I am a huge proponent of, and that's where I think the bulk of the investment needs to be made over the next several years. not ignoring large unmanned surface vessels as well too. We need to fully explore how we would develop the concept of operations for large unmanned surface vessels. But I think investments in medium unmanned surface vessels makes all the sense in the world. And even the Caribbean. Over a year ago, I directed the CNO to actually start conducting unmanned operations with, with sail drones in the Caribbean, and we operate them, off the eastern coast of Cuba and off the western coast of Haiti through the straits there, where a bulk of the cocaine actually flows into the southern coast of the United States, and a lot of the illegal arms actually flows in both directions. Unmanned technology is the way of the future. It's both manned and unmanned fleet working together is extremely important. When I take a look at the upcoming deployment of Orca, for example, right? Boeing is delivering the first Orca. We're very excited by that as well too. And that's going to present a whole new complex challenge for our adversaries in the Pacific to have to deal with and around the globe. So yes, forgive me for not having included it in the speech, but I am the biggest supporter of unmanned technology. MQ-25 on the naval aviation side. And the greatest thing about unmanned technology and all these unmanned platforms, you know what they are? When these ships pull into ports, there's no liberty incidents. Some of our old retired sailors finally got it. Admiral, good to see you.
Good to see you too, sir. So if does the SHIPS Act go far enough? If you were king for a day, what would you have added to the SHIPS Act that's not there? In anticipation of seeing Senator Wicker and Senator Kaine, give me some ammunition here.
More money for the Navy and Marine Corps. No, look, there's statutes on the books right now. Title 46 is a statute that we discovered during our, launching our national maritime statecraft. So if it costs, say, $100 million to build a ship, I'm using hypothetical numbers here, overseas, if it costs $100 million here, but it costs $80 million overseas, you could subsidize $20 million of those dollars under Title 46 and actually have the ship built here by an American shipyard. That's just one example. So I think there are other things that can be done, but look, this is a great start, and I applaud Representative Waltz, and I applaud Senator Kelly. I know Senator Young is also thinking about coming on as well too in a big way to support this moving forward. I support all of the members of Congress right now who are going to hopefully introduce this thing sometime in the next several weeks or so, and hopefully the Congress will vote on this. And it's a beginning, right? It takes a long time for legislation to truly take hold and take off and grow and all those things. But this is a great start, and I really support, I thank Senator Wicker and all the others who supported us to get this done.
Sir Moonbrick, class of 22, now Naval Institute, Beat Officer.
Good.
My question is that, sir, I like your policy on attracting foreign direct investment so that foreign company may come and invest in the U.S. But do you think there is any problem with technology transfer, sir?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the last part of your question.
So my question is that, do you see that there's any problem with technology transfer, sir?
Technology that supports?
Yes, sir, to support the fleet, because technology probably different in between different companies. For example, like Korea, they probably have different technology, and the U.S. probably have different technology.
You'd be surprised, actually. There's a lot of commonality between the types of technologies, AI and robotics and others that all of these large companies use. And, robotics is just one example. I mean, robotics is transforming our own shipyards here in this country. And the introduction of AI and for mass production of steel and other things as well, too. The digitization of the shipyard and its operations itself is something that we need to continue to invest in, right? So that when a pump shows up late on a Tuesday afternoon, on a Wednesday morning, you could understand what the impact of that pump showing up late is to the delivery of the ship. That's where we need to move towards. So I think there has been a lot of investment in CapEx. I wish a lot more investments in CapEx would be made with corporate money and not taxpayer money, but that's okay. It needs to continue to grow, both taxpayer-funded CapEx and corporate-funded CapEx as well too into the future so that we can buy technology like that that makes a difference. And I think I'm about to get the hook.
Mr. Secretary, I just want to say, I know your days are numbered here, but thank you.
By the
for
way, I'm not dying. I'm just, moving on. And I'm doing
I didn't
a lot
mean
of
it that
research,
way.
And I'm doing a lot of research on what I'm going to do next. In fact, if anybody after the session has any ideas about what the best beach in the Caribbean is, let me know, okay? Because I'd like some good advice on that subject.
I just, on behalf of this audience, I just want to thank you for your tremendous service to our nation, your passionate service in leading the Navy Marine Corps, and you've been especially supportive of the Naval Institute. So I want to thank you personally for that. And as a small token of our appreciation, present you with the book, The Neptune Factor by Nick Lambert.
Thank you so much.
All right, sir. Thank you. Hooray!
Thank you. I promise you it'll be the first book that I read on the beach.